Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello everyone. Today we are going to explore the poem A Poison Tree by William Blake. This is a powerful poem that discusses themes involve feelings and human emotion as we go on aboard. We will start by understanding the meaning of the poem and its elements to the point of using it as a learning base to understand the verbs used in the poem.
But you might have never heard of my name before, right? So, I am Akbar Eldi Wijaya, and not just by myself, we are going to be accompanied by my friends.
Hello, my name is Adit Wahyu Kurniawan.
And my name is Cahyo Alvariski.
Without wasting more time any further, let's get started.
I was angry with my friend. I told my wrath. My wrath did end. I was angry with my foe. I told it not. My wrath did grow. And I watered it in fears, night and morning with my tears. And I sung it with smiles and with soft deceitful wiles. And it grew both day and night, till it bore an apple ripe. And my foe beheld it shine, and he knew that it was mine. And into my garden stole, when the night had failed the pole. In the morning glad I say, my foe outstretched beneath the tree. But wait a second. Before we go any further, do you know who is William Blake? You surely don't know, or probably some of you know, but we're going to talk about who is William Blake first, okay? And so, who is William Blake? William Blake was an artist that is recognized as a poet, painter, engraver, and visionary. She was born on November 28, 1757 in London, and he emerged as one of the most significant figures in English literature and art, particularly noted for his contribution to Romanticism. Despite his innovative work being largely overlooked during his lifetime, Blake's reputation has grown immensely since then, establishing him as a leading light in English poetry. Throughout his life, Blake was deeply influenced by the social and political upheavals of his time, including the American Revolution and the French Revolution. His writings often reflect his radical views on politics and religion, challenging established norms and advocating for personal and spiritual freedom. Secara kesimpulan, William Blake tidak hanya dipandang karena dirinya yang begitu puitis, namun karena pandangannya dalam karya seni yang menyangkut kompleksitas eksistensi manusia. Dan karya-karyanya juga terus menginspirasi para seniman lain dan puitisi lain yang membuat posisi William Blake menjadi sosok yang ikonik di sejarah dalam literatur dan seni visual. There are quite numbers of his notable works, which are Songs of Innocence, Songs of Experience, and The Marriage of Heaven and Hell. It's not limited to that, but we are going to put in just 3 of them in here. And what we are going to delve into is a poem that is included in the Songs of Experience, which is Poison Tree. It was first published in 1794, and it focuses on emotion and conveys about human life. The poem reflects a deeply personal experience of anger and emotional consequence. We can see here that in stanza 1 and stanza 3, the word I conveys the angry emotion he's feeling, where he said that from his angry emotion, he had produced a bright apple, or what we call a poisonous apple in this context. The focus on emotions and human nature in here is what we call romanticism. Jadi karyanya dia yang begitu berfokus kepada emosi dan kehidupan manusia ini membuat karyanya termasuk ke dalam golongan yang kita sebut romanticism atau berasal dari era romantisme. Selanjutnya kita akan membahas tentang meaning atau makna dari puisi tersebut secara keseluruhan maupun per stanza.
Okay, after listening to the poem, let's explore the meaning of the poem. The poem illustrates that anger, if openly expressed, can be resolved. Namun, ketika ditekan, kemarahan menjadi berbahaya, mampu merugikan orang lain dan bahkan mengarah pada konsekuensi yang merusak. Blake memperingatkan agar tidak memelihara emosi negatif, karena emosi tersebut pada akhirnya dapat membahayakan tidak hanya targetnya, tapi juga orang yang memendam perasaan tersebut. The first stanza is about the different anger of the author toward his enemy and his friend. When angry with a friend, the author openly expresses his feelings, which allow his anger to disappear. However, when angry with an enemy or his foe, he keeps his feelings for himself, causing his anger to intensify and grow. In the second stanza, it's talk about how the author treats his anger until it grows bigger every day. He hides his true feelings behind smiles and deceit, pretending all is well while his anger continues to grow beneath the surface. In the third and fourth stanzas, the author speaks about his anger that results in his enemy's death. As the anger grows, it eventually bears fruit in the form of a poisonous apple. This apple symbolizes the harm the author's anger has created. The enemy sneaks into the author's garden at night to take the apple. By morning, the authors find his foe dead beneath the tree, poisoned by the fruit of his wrath. The author feels glad, suggesting satisfaction with the outcome, which emphasizes the destructive power of suppressed anger.
After we have discussed the meaning of the poem, let's look into the poem as a whole. As we can see here, there are 4 lines each stanzas, and it makes up 4 stanzas in total. A situation where a stanza have 4 lines each is what we call a quatrains, which is a common thing in English poetry. It is a structured and balanced framework that helps the author to convey the poem's narrative. In total, there are 16 lines here, which we can also call it a lyrical poem. Nah, jadi dari yang bisa kita lihat di sini, A Poison Tree ini mengandung 4 baris di setiap stanzanya, yang dimana ini disebut quatrain dan keseluruhan memiliki 4 stanza, yang menjadikan jumlahnya bertotal 16 baris. Dan juga dari keseluruhan yang kita lihat di sini, itu berarti karya William Blake yang berjudul A Poison Tree ini termasuk ke dalam lyrical poem. And then let's just go back for a bit. Do you see what I see here? There's an important structure here that is quite common use in poetry. Let's take a look at the end of every sentences, like friend, and foe, and grow. Do you see a pattern here? Of course, we are going to talk about the rhyme. The rhyme is where every word that is placed at the end of sentence have the similar sound with each other. In this poem, the rhyme scheme is as what we can see here: AABB, CCDD, EEFF, GGHH. This means that in each stanza, the first 2 lines rhyme with each other and the last 2 lines also rhyme with each other. Kegunaan penggunaan rima pada sebuah puisi, seperti yang digunakan oleh William Blake di sini, akan sangat membantu untuk menciptakan sebuah ritme yang mudah untuk diikuti dan juga membuat puisi tersebut menjadi lebih bernada atau bermusikal. Yang tentu saja sangat-sangat enak didengar ya kalau digunakan seperti itu. Nah, kurasa kita sudah cukup untuk membahas struktur-struktur dari puisi tersebut. Bagaimana kalau kita lanjutkan saja untuk pembahasan mengenai penggunaan verb atau kata kerja pada puisi tersebut. Dari sini kalian bisa belajar lebih tentang penggunaan verb yang dimana kegunaannya dipakai di berbagai macam hal, seperti puisi, apalagi kalimat sehari-hari.
Okay, next we're going to talk about verbs in the poem A Poison Tree by William Blake. So we're going to talk about what verbs are and identify the verbs in the poem, also interpreting the verbs literally and in context. But let's take a step back for a bit from the poem and let's discuss about verbs while we are at it. So what's a verb? Do you know what a verb is? A verb is a word to define actions, whether it will be physical or mental. Verbs also describe a state of being, like the verbs be, become, or exist. Not only that, a verb can be used as a helping verb, which is what we call an auxiliary verb. It is used to help other verbs to change their tense, voice, or mood. Here are some examples of the use of verbs in sentences. There are action verb, stative verb, and auxiliary verb. After we know what verbs are, next is discussing verbs in William Blake's poem A Poison Tree. In this discussion, we will explore some of the action verbs in the poem, focusing on their literal meanings and their contextual meanings. But before we go to the literal and context meaning, let's take a look at this poem and let's identify verb words in the poem. There are a lot of verbs listed in the poem, from action verb to auxiliary verbs. For now, let's focus on the action verbs alone. So after we identify verb words in the poem, we can see there are so many verb words that we can learn it. Let's discuss the literal meaning and context meaning in each word. The first one is told. In Indonesian means mengatakan. That has literal meaning to express something verbally. Jadi disampaikan secara lisan. For example, she told me about her vacation plans. Dia mengatakan kepadaku tentang rencana liburannya. Penggunaannya di dalam poem. I told my rat did that. In the poem, the speaker tells their friend about their anger, which resolve the situation. Jadi, toldnya di sini adalah si I mengatakan amarahnya kepada temannya. Nah, selanjutnya yaitu end. In Indonesian means mengakhiri. That has literal meaning to the end point or the last part of something. For example, the teacher did end the class early today. Guru ini mengakhiri kelasnya lebih awal hari ini. Dan penggunaannya di dalam poem yaitu I told my rat did that. The poem used it to show that by expressing anger to the friend, the speaker was able to end the rat. Jadi setelah speakernya membicarakan amarahnya kepada temannya, amarah itu akan hilang, akan berakhir. Nah, selanjutnya yaitu water. In Indonesian means penyirami. This literally refers to pouring water to help something grow. For example, he watered the garden every morning. Jadi dia menyirami kebunnya setiap pagi. Penggunaannya dalam poem, and I water it in fears. In the poem, it's a metaphor for how the speaker nurtures their anger with fears. Nah, jadi ini adalah sebuah metafor yang dimana the speaker memelihara amarahnya dengan ketakutan. Dan selanjutnya yaitu sunlight. In Indonesian means menyinari. That has literal meaning exposing something to sunlight. For example, they sunned themselves at the beach all day. Jadi mereka menyinari diri mereka di pantai sepanjang hari. Nah, jadi di sini sun di sini artinya menyinari dengan sinar matahari. Penggunaannya dalam poem, and I sunned it with smiles. In the poem, it symbolizes how the speaker pretends with smiles. Jadi amarahnya ini dia sinari dengan sebuah senyuman. Nah, selanjutnya yaitu grow and grew. In Indonesia means bertumbuh. This simply means to develop or increase in size. For example, the tree grew taller each year. Nah, dan penggunaannya di dalam puisi, I told it not, my red did grow. It symbolized the anger intensifying because the speaker doesn't express it to their full. Jadi, ketika pembicara ini tidak menyampaikan amarahnya kepada musuhnya, maka amarah itu akan semakin berkembang, semakin grow. Nah, untuk yang kedua, and it grew both day and night. The tree of anger in the poem grows steadily, day and night. Jadi, pohonnya ini tumbuh secara stabil di siang dan malam hari. Nah, selanjutnya itu bore. In Indonesia means menghasilkan and has literal meaning to produce. And this word often used for fruits. For example, the tree bore fruit in summer. Yang dimana pohon ini menghasilkan buah di musim panas. Dan penggunaannya dalam puisi, till it bore an apple bright. The tree bears a apple, the bright apple, which represents the culmination of the speaker's anger. Jadi yang dimana amarahnya ini sudah mencapai puncak dan menghasilkan sebuah apel yang bersinar. Selanjutnya yaitu behave. In Indonesia means melihat. This means to see or observe something. For example, she beheld the beautiful landscape from the top of the hill. And in the poem, and my foe beheld it shine. So it means the foe noticed the apple drawn to its brightness. And next is new. In Indonesian means mengetahui. That has literal meaning it to have knowledge of something. For example, he knew the answer to the question. Dia mengetahui jawaban dari pertanyaan itu. Dan penggunaannya dalam puisi, and he knew that it was mine. The foe recognized the apple as belonging to the speaker. Jadi, yang dimana he ini adalah musuhnya yang mengetahui bahwa apel yang bersinar itu adalah milik dari sang pembicara. Nah, selanjutnya yaitu stole. In Indonesia means menyelinap. This means to take something secretly or boastfully. For example, someone stole my wallet while I was walking down the street. Dan penggunaannya di dalam puisi, and into my garden stole. The foe sneaks into the speaker's garden at night, driven by their desire for the apple. Jadi, yang dimana setelah dia melihat apel yang bersinar itu, dia mencoba untuk menyelinap ke dalam kebunnya si pembicara untuk mengambil apel itu. Nah, selanjutnya itu veil. In Indonesia means menyelimuti. That has literal meaning to cover or obscure. For example, the folk filled the city in the morning. Dan penggunaannya di dalam puisi yaitu when the night had filled the poem. The poem used it to describe how the night hides everything under its darkness, creating an opportunity for the foe to act. Jadi ini membuktikan bahwa ia mencoba untuk menyelinap di malam hari yang dimana itu sangat gelap, sehingga itu menjadi kesempatan untuk musuhnya dalam mengambil tindakan untuk mencuri apel tersebut. Nah, selanjutnya itu see. In Indonesian means melihat. This is simply to perceive something with the eyes. For example, I can see the mountains from my window. Jadi dia bisa melihat pegunungan dari jendelanya. Nah, penggunaannya di dalam puisi. In the morning, glad I see. In the poem, the speaker sees the aftermath of their anger, symbolized by the dead foe beneath the tree. Jadi ini dimana dia melihat tubuh musuhnya itu ada di bawah pohon. Nah, selanjutnya outstretched, terlentang. This means extended or lying at full length. For example, the girl outstretched its leg and lay down on the mat. Dan penggunanya di dalam puisi, my foe outstretched beneath the tree. Jadi di sini menunjukkan bahwa tubuh dari musuhnya ini yang berada di bawah pohon itu sedang terlentang. Itulah artinya outstretched. So these verbs help to build the tension and emotional depth in the poem, showing how anger can grow. So with this, we can know the many verb words and their literal meaning as well as the meaning within the poem and making it easier for us to understand the poem. Okay, so that's it, and let's move on to the activity.
We have done with every explanation of the verbs up to this point. Now, let's have a little practice based on what you have learned so far. And now, let's match this verb according to the right definition of each verb. Match the verb to the correct definition. And the answer is A with 2, B with 1, and C with 3. Answer these questions by picking one of the options below. Which verb correctly completes the sentence? The answer is B, veil. Choose the correct past tense of the verb. The answer is B, beheld. Great job, everyone! We have gone quite a long ride until we have reached to this point. How was it, everyone? You still remember what we have learned today, don't you? Let's do a quick recap of what we have learned today. We have explored the meaning of the poem, understood the elements used in the poem, and how verbs like told, water, and sound contribute to the development of the poem's emotional intensity. Remember, understanding the verbs in a poem can help you see how emotions are expressed and how they drive the action. Do you have any questions about the verbs or any other part of the poem? Let me know in the comment. It's a bit sad for us to end it here, but we look forward to our next lesson. Have a wonderful day and see you again next time.